Amazumi is a Nepali artist raised in Hong Kong, initiated into hip-hop in London, and artistically synthesized in Gent. Scoring national buzz in 2017 as one of 8 finalists of the Nieuwe Lichting in Belgium. She made her debut as Amazumi after releasing her single V for Venom, which circulated regularly on Belgian hip-hop Spotify playlists, Studio Brussels, and Eminem. She then went on a nationwide tour with DJ Zamizulu and Owen Perry Weston of Coeli, Unjodo, Pard, and Big Whoop to make a mark on the Belgian map. She has brought her raw, fiery sets in the Netherlands, Nepal, United Kingdom, and Hong Kong. Her second single, Hadouken, was snatched up by Vibe in 2019. Amazumi will be in conversation with Shirish Dali. Shirish Dali is the frontman of Albatross. When not making music, he runs kaath.mandu, a woodworking project.
What's good? This is Amazumi, and I'm super excited, honored to be a part of Echoes in the Valley Fest. This is my very first time playing, and I hope that one day I'll actually be able to vibe with you in person. But I hope you feel my music online, and I just think it's a great opportunity for me to connect with people back home. I am currently based out of Belgium, so I've moved around quite a bit, but eventually found my way through different countries into the city of Ghent, which is where I found my empty canvas to paint my new life in, which is all about music now. So today I'll be bringing you a couple of songs. I don't think I'll get too much into the explanation because I believe in the open interpretation of songs. I feel like everybody takes away something different, and that's the whole beauty of it. But I can definitely talk to you a little bit about the headspace that I was in for a couple of songs. But the numbers that I'm bringing are released and unreleased. So the first one has yet to make it to my EP that's upcoming, and it hasn't even got a title yet. So it's basically called X. So let's start with that one, and as we go along, I'll tell you a little bit more about the other songs. Dodging bullets in the last year, yeah. And this year I've been eating them, I've been keeping them, What you think of them? No, I don't think of them, but I remember every time that you slept on, every single thing you never took the risk on. You just let me fall, pull up on my vest on, sing me to the floor, silently you crept on. Now let me pour the venom in your orifice, the chorus hits and all that bitch you've been taking, all the hits and all the shits and all them bones you've been taking. Ever since I've been on, all the opportunists get their hands on, all the pirates to the show flexing fake guns. You doped on coke cause you can't run. Now let me remind you, you started the beast, you promised no chains, uncharted and free, and part of the deal was having my back. The only thing missing, in fact, was just that. If you listen to me, the progress would be phenomenally parting the seas. Now it's just a future of uncertainty, and none of these schemes are grown in the trees. None of these schemes are grown in the trees, yeah. None of these games ever die. None of these games are grown in the trees, yeah. None of these screams ever die. You've been nothing but an extra baggage in the cabin, taking up my headspace. You're the only rat that I ever poisoned for the fact that you trapped on my airways while I put my soul into the airwaves. Now this was that sound that came around, told you what this was about. And get you to go to your name and this money around. Left me to bounce, I've been on. Every opportunist, get their hands on. All the pirates to the show, flexing fake guns. You doped on coke cause you can't run, can't run. Now let me remind you, you started the beast. You promised no chains, uncharted and free. And part of the deal was having my back. The only thing missing, in fact, was just that. If you listen to me, the progress would be phenomenally. Parting the seas, now wish us a future of uncertainty. And none of these schemes running in trees. Ever since I've been on, all the opportunists get their hands on. All the pirates of the show flexing fake guns. You doped on coke cause you can't run, can't run. None of these schemes are growing into trees, yeah. None of these screams ever die. None of these schemes are growing into trees, yeah. None of these screams ever die. Check. So the next song is called Diamonds, and it comes out of my first EP as Amazumi called V for Venom. It really is just about defending the artistry, because I was in a space, especially in the beginning, where I felt as if I needed to explain to people what it meant to be an artist, and that it was much more than what they thought. Having been born into a culture where it's not the norm to pursue a craft that doesn't yield immediate results, it almost felt as if it fell on my shoulders to kind of defend this creative process. So this is what came out of that space, and it's called Diamonds. First, there was heart, and then there was beat. First, there was heart, and then there was beat. First, there was heart, and then there was beat. First, there was heart, and then there was beat. Diamonds, how many? Diamonds are made in the dirt. Diamonds are made in the dirt. Yo, first there was heart and there was beat and there were diamonds. First there was heart and there was beat and there were diamonds. First there was heart and there was beat and there were diamonds. First there was heart, beat, diamonds. Diamonds are made in the dirt. Now that you can see, diamonds are made in the dirt. Diamonds are made in the dirt. Now that you can see, diamonds are made in the dirt. Diamonds are made in the dirt. Now that you can see, diamonds are made in the dirt. Diamonds are made in the dirt. Now that you can see, diamonds are made in the dirt. Don't need no crown of a damn crowd pleaser. Diamonds. Don't need no crown of a damn crowd pleaser. Diamonds. Entertainers of the world, very many hats we attack, we attract them like fruit flies. We too fly to get by what I notice. Spare fat change my motive. This one ain't dedicated to the masses who want fake it. The masses who can't take it. Now we relaxing what we making. They taxing what we packing. Whole punches when we rapping. We crumping and clowning and climbing up ladders and caskets. When they're down to the mask, go ask them. Like what's a whole life worth living when you can't sit down with your fan for a minute? For a minute. The diamonds. We're just diamonds. You got too much going on your plate. I get its relevance to your social strategy. Strive to achieve and strike a balance. What the fuck you think we do? When all of our lives we've been at it, expressing out the box, creating authentic piece of our most sounds so free and freeloaders think they can breathe the same damn air as us. We create space for you to believe, but you just stare at us when we're recharging your system. Your shady government's broken. Ocean of poetic breath, rearrange your system in the solar system. Diamonds. We're just diamonds. Don't need no crown of a damn crowd pleaser. Diamonds. Don't Don't need no crown of a damn crowd pleaser. Diamonds. It's a war zone, but none of them know why we keep pushing the envelope. Swinging at the end of a ledge, propelling forward, we stuck in a trench like lion in the gutter. Some of us looking up at the constellation, but many of them have no patience, especially the ones who watch whole nations fall to the knees and just criticize them anonymously. I'ma eat where I go sleep, cause my eyes always stay open. I'll watch to guard my dreams, sometimes they're broken. I'ma patch them up, make strong enough, and bake them back in the oven. Diamonds. We're just diamonds. Diamonds, don't need no crown of a damn crowd pleaser. You're sleeping on the treasure. Don't need no crown of a damn crowd pleaser. You're living under pressure. Don't need no crown of a damn crowd pleaser. You're sleeping on the treasure. Don't need no crown of a damn crowd pleaser. You're sleeping on the treasure. I don't think there's much to be said about this one. It's called Do Not Obey. Yeah. As we proceed to give you what you need, I do not obey. 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 Do not obey. Do not get down when I do not get paid. Straight from the block, I was raised not to stop. I go up to the sky up in flames. I do not get played, do not relate. Do not intend to get friendly or flay. Fuck up your rhythm cause I ain't afraid. You my goddess reclaiming my faith. You do not get loud, you do not get proud. You do not get where my different sound. You do not fight through the pain, through the crowd. You do not stand up for what I'm about. But I do create and I do go pray. I do get hungry and stay up relate. Get all my sisters and sync on this page. We work this land in our ancestors' ways. My ocean, bleeding red, my potion, bleeding red devotion. My ocean, bleeding red devotion, bleeding red, my ocean, my ocean. I do not obey. I do not obey. I do not obey. I do not obey, cause they do not care if the ocean starts to choke. I do not obey, cause they do not care if an orca loses hope. I do not obey, cause they do not care if an endangered tribe disappears. Like, what am I? If I'm not a part of this earth, then what am I? What am I? If I'm not a part of this mess, then what am I? What am I? What am I? A war in a breath. Get all your hands back in deck. Make sure your head's on the check. Raging against the machine in effect. Still gotta fight to the death. Warriors need the respect. Women we ride, reflect. Learn from our mothers to play. Care for the land in our way. Work with the earth and the clay. Seasons get hotter, we pay. Is this a progress or plague? Surviving colonial ways. Still stuck inside of this gaze. Best you get out of my head. Poison with mercury lit. Because of you natives are fled. Bleeding red, my potion. Bleeding red devotion. My ocean. My ocean. Bleeding red devotion. Bleeding red, my potion. My ocean. I do not obey. I do not obey. I do not obey. do not obey. I do not obey, cause they do not care if the ocean starts to choke. I do not obey, cause they do not care if an orca loses hope. I do not obey, cause they do not care if an endangered tribe disappears. Like, what am I? If I'm not a part of this mess, then what am I? What am I? What am I? So the last song that I'm bringing to you is also pretty self-evident in the title itself. It's called Ancients. It comes out of a quest to really find answers in the past. And I don't just mean my own personal past, but going back into the family history, the roots of the tribe, and trying to gain some wisdom from all the indigenous knowledge that was passed on to be able to navigate this world today and understand why I feel a certain way about things, and understand the issues of the world as well, and how can I find balance in my own life and use that knowledge to move forward. So, hey, the ancients, they call it for me. The ancients, they know about me. The ancients, they call it for me. Call it for me. Call it for me. The ancients, they call it for me. The ancients, they know about me. The ancients, they call it for me. Call it for me. Call it for me. This is me, I do or die. Under my skin, I feel your fly. Color my world, I won't deny. Sumni my wet to the sky. Satisfy my appetite. Connect me right, let me feel like you might. Lay my life down in plain sight. Feel my ancestors' delight. The ancients, they call it for me. The ancients, they know about me. The ancients, they call it for me. Call it for me. Call it for me. The ancients, they call it for me. The ancients, they know about me. The ancients, they call it for me. Call it for me. Call it for me. You my samang, be my light. Give my thanks for blessing life. Harvest looking real nice. I am not a preacher type. I just pray for my insight. Letting my thoughts go sway, ignite. Letting my ghosts come say goodnight. Under their wings I take my flight. Go to my past, letting me know that I have really got some healing to do. All of my feelings are true. Turn them into riches on my tongue in a booth. Feeling like I've flown to the moon. Yeah, reach for the root. Priests on the hill, but don't preach to the youth. Tyrants still try to keep it all silent. Why they all acting violent? Why they all acting violent? Guess I'm right back on my track, trying to relax, been trying on all of these different hats. Inside I've been ostracizing my demons, I need to release, be in sync with my freedom, now get to it fast, need to get facts. Why you been hiding behind a gold mask? Thinking we never catch up to you, since still deceiving, like honestly, what do you lack? To see that we're grieving, yet still we are mad. How can we free of these chains? Get to the base and replay, cut through the lies unafraid, free of the shackles each day. The ancients, they call it for me. The ancients, they know about me. The ancients, they call it for me. Call it for me. Call it for me. The ancients, they call it for me. The ancients, they know about me. The ancients, they call it for me. Call it for me. Call it for me. They call it for me. The ancients, they know about me. The ancients, they call it for me. Call it for me. Call it for me. Siwaro.
So I think we are being recorded right now.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna go first. Or you wanna go first?
Anything. You go first.
You go first.
No. It's not always ladies first anymore.
Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Shirish Dali. I'm from Albatross.
I am Amazumi, from based in Belgium, but from Nepal. Yeah. So that's me.
Nice. Okay, so as I say, we're gonna talk about, I don't know what we're gonna talk about yet,
A
but I
whole
think
lot of
the
shit.
but I think the general theme is I guess like what is it like to make music like when you're, you know, uh away from home, but I guess home away from home or being from like Nepali,
Yeah,
origins, roots, and living in a different place and, doing your thing, etc.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, why don't you go ahead, start?
Um, start now. The time is now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the thing is like I moved around quite a bit. So in the beginning it was a lot of going back and forth, like Nepal, Hong Kong. I did grow up in Hong Kong quite a bit. And I think like at most I probably spent about 5 years in Nepal. So I did a bit of schooling there. And yeah, like over time I ended up like studying in India as well. This Bati, I went to England and then finally came around to Belgium, like by chance. I literally just thought, oh, let's just check this place out because of my ex-boyfriend at the time, which is kind of how I found my way in this whatchamacallit. Like I really started making music when I met him. Not that I wasn't busy with music growing up in schools, but when I started to pursue it, I didn't think to myself, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. But now, what I'd say, I think the whole pursuit started. And I believe that it's when I came to Ghent that I felt as if it was like a clean slate. Yeah, it's like such a neutral place where I knew nobody and I didn't have the societal pressures of like, you need to be doing this. And I just ended up, yeah, being in the music scene from London to Ghent. And then, but to go back, like in schools, I was always a part of a band, however shitty they sounded, we sounded. With like the bare minimum skills. We used to go on stage and do whatever we could. So
Yeah.
sometimes I was in the drums, sometimes the guitar, playing like whatever we knew. What
Yeah.
and yeah, so Nepal, Hong Kong, both places, I ended up being always a part of like drama groups and music because it was always enjoyable, and you were
Yeah.
really just a part of an artistic community, and it was fun to be creative at the time. Like in Nepal, I don't know if you have. Did you ever go to Shivatara?
Like the school.
Yeah, the
Like go
school.
to school. I mean, school bit. I don't think I've ever been inside of Suratala. I used to go to a boarding school, so it was त्यस्तै थियो. But I mean,
Yeah.
location wise, I know where the school is and stuff. Yeah.
Okay, because Avea is from there, right? Like he went to
Yeah. So
Shivatar.
Ave
Is
and Dipesh, Hirachan, they
yeah,
went to school. Suvatarama. I think they might have been the first SLC batch or something. I don't know. I.
yeah, they were the seniors, and I remember him. Well, I
Ave.
hope he remembers me.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, I think most of my music music related memories, is from Shivatara because of the first girl band that we had
Oh,
in school.
wow.
It was really funny. Like we we went through different names. In the beginning,
Uh,
we called ourselves the Pills for some reason. Maybe it was like the grunge phase, and then like these kids, they started calling us the Banana Peels. Um,
banana peels. Okay.
so like I don't know if that means we sounded really bad or they're just trying to be cheeky. And then we changed it to Inchoative Chaos, which I
Mm.
don't really remember what it means, but somebody in class helped us brainstorm a name and then we came up with that. So so
But
we
all
ended
those
up.
names sound pretty funky, man. Like banana peel. I think I would be in a band like that. Banana peel.
Yeah, it would turn out to be a great name.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's where I ended up in my first all-girl band, and then we played like give on to like the simplest songs from Green Day
Yeah.
and Silverchair.
Yeah.
So then yeah, and then afterwards went to Hong Kong again and played in some bands there. But I was really like I ended up studying journalism. That's what I went to India for.
Mm-hmm.
This petite, I dabbled in like so many different types of jobs, that all the while kind of in the background still, being engaged in these jams and etauta.
Mm-hmm.
Ani, like the emceeing part just came out in London. Like Didi Balate, I was in a university accommodation, and it was literally like through a cousin of mine. I ended up in this group of people because he was like, "Yeah, you're new to England, and these Nepalese youngsters, they're trying to do something." So this group was like filled with filmmakers, Ani, like dancers and event planners and
Mm-hmm.
MCs. So, and then there was an MC from Belgium who was there. His name's Kush. And I met him there. I was very hooked on the ciphers. I was like, wow, this is a really cool sort of atmosphere. And I was very motivated to like try it out. Even though that time, like I was focused on making a documentary, I made a little school assignment for about Kush. um, and so, and then all the while, like I started to dabble a little bit into writing songs. This petite, yeah, I think my first rap would probably sounded like nursery rhymes. um, but I ended up just continuing. This petite like did a lot of free gigs and trying to get experience, and we just did it for fun, to be honest, and then
Yeah.
eventually became quite serious, I guess. And Belgium, I felt like, okay, I'm getting more gigs and I could do something with it. And then I continued and it just became what it is now. So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, quite an interesting past, actually. So okay, did you give SLC from Suvatara or?
No. I left Shivatara when I was like in year seven with Akiri, like beats my Torera, and I went to Hong Kong and I did my HKCE, that's what they call them there.
Okay.
High school finals day. But see, this is the Ekuchiti, like I went straight to that journalism school in India.
Okay.
This is part of it. I did like some other studies as well, but yeah.
Uh-huh. So like, were you traveling with your parents then at the time? Probably, right? Like you're
No,
moving
it was
around with your
always
parents. Huh?
yeah, I was all alone. I was our families like always in different countries most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Sane dihine, like even Nepal with my parents were in Hong Kong, and like when I went to India, I went there alone. This petit UK all that and then my bhai was in the UK, then he went back to Hong Kong. So we're always like in different places. And up until now, like last year, my mom and dad finally came to the UK to kind of like settle. So they're across the channel now. That are with you,
Yeah.
they got the Haiti. Haven't seen them in a year again.
Yeah. So Teju, that's
Yeah,
that's quite an interesting childhood, actually, because I didn't realize. I thought you were just sorry. Merote is like mostly just Nepal, and then after I
yeah,
finished high school, which is
yeah,
+2 once there. So once
yeah,
once I finished that, then I went abroad. So even
yeah,
though like I was in Nepal, like most of my years were in like away from home.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't know. So tested I with you right now.
Like
So
away from home, as in like outside of Nepal, or do you mean like away from home but in the country?
yeah, so for mirror case, man, say like I was away from home, but still I
Yeah.
was inside of Nepal.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I mean that kind of did shape, you know, like me as I am right now, because of the past and everything. But
Yeah.
I used to always uh want to be like everywhere, just like you maybe. I don't know, It's like why can't
Yeah.
we go
Definitely.
over here? Why can't we go over there? Why can't we live over there?
That's
Just like,
true.
you know. Uh,
Absolutely.
so when you're moving around that much, like, do you feel like Nepali, or do you feel, uh, like not your loyalty or anything, but like because you're in so many different cultures, right? And every culture
Yeah.
has an impact on you, right? So,
Yeah.
like, what is it for you? Like, when you say you're Nepali, what is that? What is that? How do you identify? I guess,
Very good question.
Or-
That's some like deep thinking question because I remember even like when I was in Hong Kong and we were still very young and my brother and I were in this cab and we suddenly like looked at each other and we were like, we're asking each other genuinely, like, where do you think we belong? Like, where do we belong? And we couldn't come up with an answer then. And I don't think I can come up with an answer now. That are like, it it does occur to me sometimes when well, there are so many gaps where I haven't spoken Nepalese in a long time. This petite mommy, she's the bull that Katie. Like I get it hits me that okay, I'm Nepalese and there are some things that
Yeah.
you know, it just like switches. Yeah. I think it's pretty cool that I take a bit of, you know, every culture, including my own, everywhere I go, and that also shapes me the way I am because I'm very open to a lot of things, and I'm very thankful that I got this sort of exposure. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
living in different environments, also having to adapt each time. There were moments like in the past few years where I had to kind of move because of circumstances. I felt like, oh, I was just making a home here and I have to move again. But then I was like, but I'm very used to that now. Like, just to uproot
Just be
yourself,
traveling. Or
start again. Yeah. Yeah. And if I am in one place for a very long time, then I would question like whether I want to settle down. Like right now, I don't even feel like Belgium is like a final destination, even though my mom thinks it should be because she wants me to settle down.
time to settle down,
uh,
right? Oh.
Settle down. I was like, yeah, I haven't finished. I haven't even started. So kina like the if I hadn't yeah, so I was planning to move to Berlin after Ghent.
Okay.
Um, but that hasn't happened yet because now so I've got my partner now and because of that I ended up staying. But if I had if I could make that choice, I think I'd keep moving around because I feel like I haven't seen enough and I'm okay with having different home bases. You know,
Hmm.
and some people like they're okay to travel as long as they have a home base. There are
Yeah.
mere home base me, it's never been steady. Like
Hmm.
even within one country, Belgium and I've already moved like 5 times or more actually.
Hmm.
So it's yeah, it's a part of my life and I feel like it's a part of who I am now and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with not belonging somewhere entirely.
Yeah.
I think that's what I would say.
But
Yeah.
that is still
Yeah.
a, I mean, the only reason I asked was because, I mean, that's your past, first of all. And I thought there was no like, because it's more like a societal norm,
Yeah.
Nita. So you
Yeah.
are, who are you, like Nepali, but then you're in Hong Kong and then India, what? Like, so are you like Nepali or what? You know, sort of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
for artists, I don't really think like, because, you know, I don't want to belong to a place. You
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
if I'm in one place for a really long time, I feel like, okay, I need to get out of here, you know.
Yeah.
But about
Yeah.
Kathmandu, like it's a little different. Kathmandu for me is like I have a like love relationship types, you know. And live with or without this place sort of, right?
I get that.
um but you know, like your past like affects so much of again who you are, and then that reflects into your art, right? So that's why
Yes.
somebody who's like traveled and seen like different cultures, like you just have a
Yeah.
different way of thinking and stuff and relating to like the environment that's around you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I I think like I just realized that perhaps it makes me someone who doesn't necessarily want to I think it might be very cliche, but like to to want to do whatever is happening in this scene. Like I love exploring my own way of doing things. Ani because like for example, if there's a certain type of sound, certain type of music that's really in right now, like it's not something that I would hop on straight away. I would just like do my own take on it, you
yeah.
know, because I've never been in any place or seen long enough to want to stay within it and try to limit myself to that. I think that's kind of how I approach my music as well. I've had people who were very used to like a certain sound in the beginning of how I made my music, how I rapped, and then they were not used to the way I started to evolve and this try different things, you know. I even
Mhm.
had like this DJ who was completely against what I was trying, like new things. No, he even like skipped songs. Yeah, live.
Do this.
I, I,
Oh, really? Oh my God.
dude, like he skipped all the new stuff, and I was like, why would you? The thing is, like, I was too nice. I was way too nice. If it was
Uh,
somebody else, they would have stopped the show and be like, get
Yeah.
the trust back. The artist ko like gatekeepers or and they're not used to like the way I try new things, and that's what it's about. You have to explore.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that's kind of the person that I've become eventually.
Yeah. Because like I think everybody knows like there are certain molds that we have to break and stuff, and
Yeah,
people I think do talk about it, but they can't really like apply that to their lives, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
was like, oh yeah, you have to do this, you have to think outside the box. But what does that really mean, like thinking outside the box? And when you see somebody else doing it, you're like, wait a second. It's almost like a
yeah,
knee-jerk reaction to like what you've been
yeah,
conditioned, as you're growing up,
yeah,
But as artists, like I feel like you definitely have to kind of push that boundary. And for
yeah.
me, like I think I don't know, nature this is like if somebody says it has to be done this way, like
You
I
just don't
go
want to
out
do
of my
that.
way to be like, no, it can be done the other way, even though I really don't care, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Because like art is kind of a rebellion, I think. It comes out of, I don't know, like you're trying to not just reflect society, but like the nature of art itself is like that, I think.
Yeah.
If you yeah, I've been thinking about that lately.
No. So most of
Yeah.
my songs, like, so when I write most of the songs, like it's very heavily influenced, like uh with like Nepali culture, I don't know, or politics and stuff like whatever is happening
Yeah. Yeah.
every in Nepal, and about I guess like I would say 50% of the songs that I wrote was like when I was abroad. So I was
Yeah.
like kind of trying to relate to like let's say back home or something, but then just being confused as to like again like sense of belonging. Like when you're abroad, you're like, okay, I'm here. You start. I don't know. Like when I went abroad, I was like maybe late teens, man, and like as you venture out into the world, you have this like idea, whatever Hollywood idea of the world, right? And then there's real world.
Yeah.
um, and eventually, I guess everybody kind of goes through that. Like any person that lives is an expat or something, or lives, away from their, whatever environment they grew up in. I think
Yeah.
that identity, almost like an identity crisis, like wanting to be like your host um,
Yep.
community, and then but then you
Yeah.
also have your own values. But then
Exactly.
and it's like okay,
Exactly.
like am I trying to become this? Am I trying to like preserve my
Yeah.
thing, or what does that make sense? It's like a different world, yeah, for those kind of people. They're just like trying to balance between the two cultures.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I don't really like the fact like you have to be this or that type ko हुन्छ नि त अहिले संसारमा like हुन्छ नि. It's like why can't you have it all sort of.
Because I think people like to have, I don't know, they like to define things. They want to like be comfortable with a certain definition or a certain way that they see someone, and if they cannot pinpoint who you are, you can't pinpoint your sound or whatever, they search for it. I think it's if it's a part of human nature. But
Mhm.
it's interesting that you say that, because there's a friend of mine who's like trying to start up this design in Hong Kong, and it is about it's called On Being Nepali. And she asked me to like write something as a forward, as a blurb, and I kind of said the same thing, is that we throughout our lives we end up trying to either like trying to do the two things, is feel a sense of belonging to some sort of community, but at the same time you're trying to stand out, like this is, because we're all very customized, we're tailor made to our own experiences, and not everybody's the same. And yeah, so there's one part of us that wants to stand out and have, because you will have different experiences, even if you're Nepalese and I'm Nepalese, we take a bit of the different things that make us who we are, but at the same time, like there's a comfort in belonging to a certain community. Even the lingo, for example, like the Nepalese lingo, the shit that we say, it makes me feel home.
Yeah, yeah,
um,
exactly.
so yeah, I think it is a constant struggle. I think it's just the whole process. That's the journey that we're on, I think, and especially as people
Yeah,
who have lived in a few different places. When some people here, like they find it very difficult, not difficult, but they think it's fascinating to know that someone has like grown up in these different situations, because some of them have only grown up in one place throughout their lives.
Hmm.
And I've seen that. I mean, that's also cool, you know. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
like they find it very fascinating that, oh, you can actually adjust and adapt to different places, and some people can. Some people are not made for it, I guess. I don't know.
But if you think about it, like almost 50% of our population is like, everybody's living abroad, right? So I think at least people that are abroad, uh,
Yeah.
maybe in different capacities, but you can still kind of relate to that fact, like
Yes.
home is somewhere else, and then, you kind of miss home. Sometimes you don't, but then,
Yeah.
I guess you always have that constant yearning to like go back. I don't know, like maybe not to all, but for
Yeah.
me, maybe
No.
to the like those 12 years, or not the like the first 16, 17 years that I was here, is like really strong pull.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so how does like being, maybe let's say like being Nepali, whatever
Yeah.
that is, how does that affect your songwriting? Or does it, or is
You
it
know,
like, hmm,
yeah. How does it affect my songwriting? Well, I have used a couple of words. That's it so far, because I haven't been confident enough. Like my actually say so. Yoda, the rapper, I met him in London, so we were in a jam session, and then I ended up featuring him on my first EP,
mhm,
Vamp Bane. But the whole EP is off Spotify now. There was some like situation with it, but I'll re-upload it. So not a lot of people have heard the original. I ended up doing that song like without him, because obviously he couldn't come to Belgium all the time. He
mhm.
hasn't performed it even once with me. So whenever I had to do that in a live session, I ended up doing his verse. And there is no way in hell I could write like that.
Oh, so that verse is in Nepali.
Yeah, that verse is in Nepali, and a lot of people thought it was like my verse, and I had to clear the air like recently. I was like, please, like, Yoda has the credit, because this is literally only because I had no choice and I had to perform it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I would only when I get to a place where I'm confident enough to
Yeah.
write like good Nepalese bars, then yes. Tara Igdir, I'd say like I end up throwing in some words, which makes it really cool, because a lot of people also didn't know that I was Nepalese. And when they hear like a word, even like Limbu words are how they take it, like
Yeah.
Hangma, queen and this and that. Sewaro or Vanite. That I really wanted to learn the Yaktung language, the Limbu language, and
Mhm.
be able to rap in that one day, like properly, you know.
Okay. But I guess like
But
so like Nepali man, like you don't, what I try to what I try to mean was like, what I meant was um like you don't have to write in Nepali, but like having that doing background, cultural background, you can express it in any language you're comfortable in. But
yeah,
when it comes to like writing, like
absolutely.
how does that, like being somewhat you know w- like growing up in the Nepali जुन छ नि त हाम्रो community वा अब the culture
Yeah,
and all the stigmas that go with it, like even when you write it
the
in,
stigmas, yes. Yeah,
like
sorry, go on.
does it have a big impact on the kind of verses you write or the songs you write? It doesn't have to be any
Yes.
subliminally or something, so subconsciously पनि आइरहेको हुन्छ नि त. Does that ever happen to you? Have you ever
No,
like,
definitely. Yes. I think when like in the whole like whenever I write music, I realize that for me it's always a search for I guess the identity, and not to define it, but to explore who I am through music. And to Gorda, I'd say I did end up like touching upon things in the past, and also the issues within our culture as well, of being a woman, for example, the contradictions there are, of
mhm,
being worshipped as goddesses on one hand, on the other hand, these girls are still being sent to a shed, every month, or just the little battles that I've had within families, being a woman, and also other stuff like traumas and whatnot. I ended up writing a song called Hangma for a theater production,
mhm,
and that is heavily inspired and influenced by the culture that I grew up in. Even everything from like even the aesthetics of the way the costumes were made, they built it on the stories that I had to tell. So I am actually telling stories that happened in Nepal. And that, yeah, that was the first time I actually wrote something very, very autobiographical
Hmm.
on like the soundscapes as well. Everything was very much influenced. It won't sound entirely Nepali, but then you will hear traces of it in the stories and like I said, the soundscape and the way that I approach my storytelling. Yeah, so yeah, I think like that has become stronger as I've grown older. Like I tend to, like you said, we have this urge to go back. And it's not just to like, oh, find my roots, but yeah, but I guess it is finding my roots because you're trying to understand who you are and why you feel a certain way about things. And it carries it, yeah, it definitely carries over into the music. Not all the time, like I make all sorts of music, but definitely in some important songs I've had that. I've
Okay.
definitely felt the impact of, yeah.
Is that a recurring theme, or is that like one isolated piece of music, or what do you think? Like as you're writing now or something, like what is the theme of, of
What
the
is my
kind of
theme?
stuff that you
Damn,
want,
I
or
don't know.
like sometimes for me
No,
what happens is it's not just, I mean, I don't say like it's more of a recurring theme, it's like I'm just concentrated on one thing and then I really like magnify that one spot and just really try and understand that one little aspect of it. So it's like, think about it like you're looking at a picture or a painting, for instance, and you're just
yeah,
focusing on one little spot, and then like you make it super big, and then that in itself becomes like another something else. So
wow.
Benamatsa is like, it's like a whole thing, and it's very I just go into detail and then like just try and explore, and I try to maybe like reflect,
Yeah,
try and see like how do I fit into that or something, like, or my reaction, or like, just the type goes like. So,
I
but
think it
obviously
is.
yours is a lot more different because like yours, you know, you do identify and you call a lot of different places home, right? So,
Yes, yes. Like Hong Kong, and Nepal would be like the main places where I obviously draw inspiration from. But yeah, there's a bit of London as well. And I don't know. I think um, the recurring theme wise, I definitely feel like identity is always a theme. And like just like the way you explained how you usually talk about things happening in Kathmandu or the politics and so on. Mine is a lot of yes, self identity, and a lot of nowadays a lot about womanhood. Like that's becoming a stronger focus,
mhm.
probably as I'm kind of reflecting on the past as well. And I did have a like, so the theater production that I was talking about is happening again soon, and I feel like that opened a lot of wounds and a lot of things I never questioned or spend time questioning before. And it was like Pandora's box, and suddenly I was like, I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So but that gave me so much more to write about. It was
But
like,
that's your source as well, right? I know you can go back into yourself and then you're just like, shit, I have so much to write about
yeah,
or like express,
because exactly, because for some time I felt like, where you have those moments, the writer's block moments, and you feel like, you know what, I don't think I've lived enough. I need to live a little more now to come up with more material, and so on and so on. Thought I'd do a theater production, they'd say
Yeah.
it just all hell broke loose, and I started pouring my heart out into things. Obviously, I haven't released. I've only released like mostly collaborations in the past few years, and now I'm just working towards an album, an EP, and then continuing the theater project as well. And hopefully one day we can actually bring the theater project to Nepal. Although I do it in English, I also do a bit of Nepali in between. But the other actors who are also doing autobiographical stories, they do it in Dutch, but they've already planned out, like if they do it in a different country where it's they don't speak Dutch, then they will either subtitle it
Mm.
or change their language to English. So Yeah, but it's basically a story about three women, um, from different cultures, from different backgrounds. So it talks about everything from adoption, colonialism, and like traumas, sexual abuse, cultural kind of pressures, like that kind of stuff, all interweaved
Yeah.
within these three stories. So it's very interesting. And I'm very thankful that this project came into my life because I feel like it helped me as an artist to open up as well
Yeah.
about what I wanted to write about. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting, man. So the drama, is it like do they record it or like what are you guys is it like a
Um,
musical? Like how does that what is it? How does that work?
so it's a very interdisciplinary production. So we have we have some music. So there is a violinist. She does the most of she actually did the whole, I would say, like the soundtrack, right? So she plays it live. She's a part of the performance as well. But then I have my little rap in between as well, called the hangma one. And
Mhm.
we have a bit of acting. It's not, I wouldn't even call it acting. It's literally like reenacting parts of your life, which is really tough.
Yeah,
especially
makes you
especially if you have,
vulnerable.
yeah, man, it was like, how many times do we have to rehearse? But like, it's funny how every time you do the show, the feelings are still fresh. So I thought you would be numb after playing shows back to back, but it was not the case. You always like see things in a different way every time you do it. So there's a bit of that reenactment. Um, and then I think the director has like put in some fictional parts to kind of make the story whole. It's a constant work in progress, so it will keep changing. I think it will like keep developing, not necessarily change.
Mhm.
And so yeah, there's a bit of dance as well, but it's not like the you know hip hop choreo or anything. It's literally like theatrical movements
Yeah.
that reflect all the emotions and blah blah blah. So yeah, it's a mixture of different things. It's not a musical, but we do sing. We do a bit of music as well.
Mhm.
Just a whole like three stories being told as a whole.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because I think like identity wise, when you're like not living in your home or whatever it is, I know that's like a recurring thing that
Yeah.
always comes up, right? Because first time you go out in the world, like who are you? Where are you from? Like you look like
Yeah.
this or that or whatever, and it's
Yeah.
always like that. Who am I? Anywhere you go, it's not like okay, just one. I mean, I wish we lived in a world like that, but just
Yeah.
us being humans as well. You want to know, like, hey, what is this guy? Who is this guy? Just to
What is this guy?
like I mean, like we went to a school where it was एकदमै like a rural area of the US में थियो होइन Midwest मा अनि almost like 99% was very conservative like white population, so and like I don't know, like going in I didn't think of it much, but then as you're in the society then you start learning all these things, like how
Yeah.
society is. And
Yeah.
not saying anything bad, but that's how it is. And then you start like questioning, then you just have all these what the hell is going on? Because you're in a different bubble, you come into a different bubble, and you're just like the other.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
that really made me think like, okay, who am I? Because I kind of relate to these people because the kind of school we went to were like almost American style too, I know. And also the Hollywood gives us like so much. It's almost like a form of neo like colonialism, like without having to send your army or whatever, and wage
Yeah.
wars. You just like culturally like infiltrate. That's why I look at the way I speak English. You know what I mean? Like, why do I speak
Yeah.
English
Yeah.
the way I do? Because I didn't grow up
Exactly.
in the US, and you don't think about these things, right? Because society, man, like when you
Yeah.
have these kind of different accents, like foreign accents, you're like, whoa, so cool. And
Yeah.
Nepali accent ma bole bhance like
I know.
you know, like, and then you go abroad and you're like, why do I have this accent? Like,
That's so
a,
true,
a
man. But
French
even
person doesn't have this accent when he speaks English. A Spanish guy doesn't have this accent. Why? And
that's
हामी
true.
त हुँदा हुँदा, like even when we speak Nepali, it's like Anitya. Like,
Yes.
wait a second, what
MKL.
happened? I know. Like what happened to us type of, I mean, that's why that identity kind of thing like always keeps coming back, like what is this, what is this, what is this one, like not
Yeah.
that I care about it, but like when everybody around you cares about it, then you kind of stick out like a fork in the road, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
like imagine like going to a school with 99% like conservative white population, you just stick the fuck out. Like
Look out.
whether you like it or not, anywhere you go. And then
Totally.
what ends up happening is like even when you go to parties and stuff like that, maybe people don't care, but eventually you
Yeah.
start caring. It's like you're just
Right.
like, it's like how do I even
Something.
relate to these people? Can I even relate to these people and stuff?
Yeah. Were
I mean
you
the
able
thing,
to assimilate easily, or did you have a tough time like assimilating or integrating in that community?
I mean, I don't think I had a tough time, I wouldn't say, because beginning, might say it was more like, okay, I'm here and now, and this is what I'm here to do. So, and when
Yeah.
you don't have that, except you don't say baggage, of the culture, like, whatever, then you're just like, okay, you don't even think about it, right? And then somebody else has to point it out to you. Okay. So do you feel this way? Like, am I supposed to? Like, I don't know. And then, and I
Yeah.
started taking some like human relations classes and stuff, and they were pretty intense about like race relations and like,
Yeah.
and then it's like a whole, like, again, that was another, the Pandora box, just like, yeah, once in a moment, like,
Yeah.
what? This is a whole new underworld type of, yeah, there's a subculture within a culture, khali huncha ni.
Yeah. I
Um,
think living in America must be strange though. It is a different type of society in a way. I don't know. Because
yeah,
I've talked about this with someone and just the way things are over there. And yeah, race, just the whole thing of race just goes to another level out there.
yeah.
I
And
know that,
rightfully so, because like there, like everybody from everywhere, is
yeah,
that's what made the US. And people, I mean, like I'm not trying to like criticize, but that's what it is. It is what it is,
yeah,
right? And I think like I don't really hate the US or anything. As a matter of fact, I do like it. I call that place home, and like I spent a significant amount of time in the
okay.
US, my growing years and stuff, and I have lots of friends there, family, and but then at the same time, like you analyze all these factors in society, and then like maybe things would have been super different if I went there like when I was a little kid or something.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
most of my upbringing was here, and I have a solid
yeah,
foundation here with like a
exactly.
American style education. So one would think like as soon as I get into the US, I will just kind of disappear.
Yeah, yeah.
But I
It's
guess
like the kids
sometimes,
grow up in the UK, like of today. They just grow up in a different country straight away, and
yeah,
they develop differently.
yeah, yeah,
Although although UK has a solid Nepalese community,
yeah,
the
yeah,
there's a lot of Nepalese culture that exists anyway, so they will
yeah,
grow up with that, but it's still a little different than someone like, we
yeah.
grow up in a formative years a bit in Nepal, and that really shapes you
And
differently.
almost like sometimes I would think like my accent, because of my accent, people there would think like I was from there. And,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
and then when they deal with somebody that's American and non-white versus somebody non-white and foreign is totally different. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes, that's
So
so true.
anyway, but I mean, the reason we're talking about this, the reason I bring it up is because that has a lot of influence in the kind of stuff that I do. Because I'm also influenced with like um, the Western art, because I went to art
Yeah,
school, so we had to do a lot of like art history,
yeah,
like fine arts, etc. And then all these concepts of like philosophers and this and that, and why somebody does this, or like some
yeah,
different era ko on the head. Yeah, and that really helped me write in Nepali, because I I can't write in Nepali. I can't, you know. And everybody like nowadays think like, oh, yeah, so good, you're so good in writing in Nepali, and I'm like,
I didn't know that. I didn't know you felt that way because you write amazing.
I don't think so at all. But I mean, that really, then first message, like we used to do everything in English, right? And then once
Yeah,
I went abroad, I was like, no, I really want to sing in Nepali. But then that was
yeah,
like really intimidating, because always you tend to draw your influence from something that's already existent, right? I mean,
Yes.
I never really like listened to like हाम्रो Nepali music, you know?
Hmm.
And so you
Yeah,
don't
you
know
guys.
like, huh?
Sorry, go on.
And I thought you don't know
No, you
like in terms of
guys. I'll let you continue.
okay, hold that thought. Right?
Okay.
I mean, I didn't know like how to write
Yeah.
in Nepali. I mean, that was as simple as that, and it was very intimidating. Yeah. And so when I'm
Yeah.
first writing, I'm like, no, this is not good. Like, what? This is crap. Like, how can you कसरी निकाल्ने बाहिर हुन्छ नि?
Yeah.
And he was just like, no, I can't show it to anybody. Like, this is super crap, super crap, super crap. And so over the years, as I went to school, I'm not trying to bash like where I went to school, but I've learned so much from there. Like, I have so many good friends from that area.
Yeah.
Like all the teachers and stuff. It's like changed my life. So
Mhm.
as we're learning about these cultures and or these different like art periods and like different artists, like why are they doing this? There's always a reason behind something, होइन?
Yeah.
And then that kind of gave me अलिकति confidence भनौँ न कि
Yeah.
I can actually maybe I can attempt to write it in Nepali and maybe people will think like or won't think that's stupid. Are we stuck again?
Shit. Yeah, you literally stuck on the last sentence and then you fast forwarded.
Wait, what up?
You said, then I felt like I could write in Nepali.
Oh, so it was almost like 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 when you're not a fool is wise until he speaks once, isn't he? Or she
Yeah.
speaks, whatever, a fool is wise until they speak one ass. Like he's like, I didn't want to be that fool. So that was like it's like
Same.
I just want to be
Yeah.
like, yeah, this guy is cool. Yeah, yeah, I'm cool. Yeah, I'm cool. But deep down, you're like, fuck, man, shit, I don't know if I'm cool. you know. And especially, I was really intimidated, like writing, because once you write it, you're almost like exposing yourself, because that's your way of expressing stuff, and then people can attack you, and I guess first months,
Yeah.
and you're so invested, like it's like you can't take criticisms, right? Like, or even not criticism, even critique. Like you can't take a good criticism stuff. It's like a different story, right? And people are so quick to judge, like what? Can it first month, like if you come across something that's never been done before, you're
Done.
not familiar with, like people are not okay with it.
Yeah.
And so it's always like it was really intimidating for me to like come up with like Nepali writing, yeah. And I was
How long did it
sure,
take you
huh?
to like, how long did it take you to overcome that and be like, okay, now I'm ready to put my Nepali work out into the world?
So another thing was that like human conditions across the sun, that like our brain really plays tricks on us, right? So if you're an artist, like you need to be, I think you have to be a master manipulator of emotions. And if you can't do that, then how are you gonna connect with your audience? And so there's that thin line between like like when you're writing music and when you're writing lyrics, like the spots. You need to know those sweet spots.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, this
Yeah.
is where I'm gonna get them, kind of, and then you just kind of play on it, right?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, even when you're watching movies and stuff, like we tend to like respond to other people's emotions because obviously we're humans. So movies, that's not really happening.
Yeah.
It's not happening. But then you're crying
But
and
you
you're like
still,
happy, you're rooting for you, whatever. So so at one point I was just like, I put my foot down and I was like, I'll just pretend this is
yeah.
good, you know. And then And then it was almost like त्यो के अरे एउटा स्टोरी छ नि द किङ्स क्लोज के भन्ने छ अरे एउटा छ नि
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. King's
what is the
Close.
name of
Yeah,
that story?
something like that.
So
I get that.
basically एकजनाले लिएर आएर भन्छ नि त लाइक एकदमै अब इन्भिजिबल द किङ्स के भन्ने छ नि वाट इज द्याट लेट मी गुगल इट है
Invisible. So he kind of like doesn't wear anything, right? In the
Mhm.
end.
के अरे यसको कुरा I mean I'm pretty sure everybody knows, oh, the emperor's new clothes.
Yes.
Everybody knows the story, right? And if you're confident enough, like you can, you know, dupe a king
That's
into just walking naked, apparently. So I just try to take advantage of that. Yeah. So and
yeah.
Tupumi Yoda, one of my classes, Matasli Pura, is like, what is originality? Vanni kura hai. This was like, so what is original? Ana? Ani
Damn, your classes, your classes sound amazing. Why didn't I take those classes?
yeah, so it really like threw me off, you know. I was like, Ani, our professor would like, Ani, like if you're in the art faculty, like the way they teach you stuff, your classrooms are set up, it's completely different, right? So first, I was in the computer science department, which is like very formal education,
Yeah,
board, teacher, professor classes.
yeah.
Art department, here, like fucking paint everywhere. It's like, and then that's where I feel home, right? But that's I was like, fuck,
Yeah,
man, I should be going to school here. Just to work. Yeah.
that's so cool.
So I think that really helped me out, like that originality, and then like something has to start somewhere, and people, it's almost like everything's like acquired taste, like even your culture. Like if I was born in the US, being Nepali, being who I am, what I look like, and I would have a totally
Yeah,
different upbringing, totally different mindset, my brain would function
yeah,
differently, but knowing like Nepali, ekdom ramrari, that's your brain needs to be set up a certain way to be able to speak a certain language, and there's English, Nepali, and then you just have this wells like pool of different experiences and resources, right?
yeah,
So I just started like making use of those, like trying to apply these theories into like my life. And then I
yeah,
knew like music isn't acquired taste. Nobody like comes out of the womb like being a rocker or like a rapper or whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Your surroundings, people, so many things. There's so many factors that influence it. And
Absolutely.
eventually, it's just like beer. It's acquired taste. And I thought like if I hang in there long enough, maybe
Yeah.
they will be convinced.
And they were.
I know. So this is
That's
all
pretty
this is all a
awesome.
hoax.
You need to write a book. That's all.
So yeah,
Wow, acquired taste. I never looked at it that way, but it is true. It's very true. I feel like I'm taking a philosophy class or something. We're in a philosophy session, which is
yeah,
yeah, which is how it is. But no, that's so interesting to know how you came about, trying to work on your craft and
yeah.
use what it is that you learned in those awesome classes.
Mm-hmm. And also, I don't consider myself like a master at anything either, you know? Because I think in this day and age, it's not like I don't want to be invested in like only one thing, because there's so
Yeah,
many things that draw my attention, and I don't want to be like just a musician or just a whatever or whatever,
yeah,
like
yeah.
I mean,
It, yeah,
but that's kind of against the grain of the society as well, because they want you to again. So you want to ask like, okay, what? You're not married, you're not settled, you're a kid, blah blah blah.
yeah,
And I guess like being an artist, like obviously you don't want to do that. You don't want to conform. But all
exactly.
these things. So
Yeah,
all these things like I think I can reflect into my or express through music, which is kind of cool.
yeah,
And again, like I can't express myself well enough, so most of my writing is like scattered and vague, and
yeah.
I've learned to like accept it, and I think that is now I feel like that is my strength, which I thought was my weakness in the beginning.
Yeah. Do you
So
end up like structuring your writing in the end? Like when you have these scattered writings or thoughts, do you structure, like, do you end up having to structure it, or do you just kind of leave it as it is and put it there?
and I think I do work on the structure. That's one thing that I
Yeah.
work on.
Yeah.
I think my writing is more about like almost like a presentation of like an idea.
Yeah.
I'm not like every line you can say is almost like a paragraph, because when you're like writing a verse, you can actually the more words you use, I know,
Yeah.
the clearer the idea gets. But हाम्रो
Yeah.
खालीमा चाहिँ, like in our kind of music, you have like 3 minutes, and then you have two verses, which is like 8 lines, and then
Yes.
and you have to kind of try and make sense.
Compress. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Then you gotta weed it out.
Yeah. So if you if
Yeah,
you if you, if you can write, I'm not saying like writing 5 pages is easy, but like you have room to like really
yeah,
okay, you take a deep breath and like you write it out, But when it's like when you gotta compress those 5 pages into like a page, then that's just intense. But I guess मेरोमा चाहिँ ठ्याक्क उल्टा भयो क्या. So I just kind of that kind of became my strength, or I see that as my strength. And now every time I'm writing, I'm thinking more about not the words as words, because
yeah,
words are just like arbitrary things that carry like so much of information, right?
yeah, yeah,
So much. Ooh. So now I'm not thinking about what that word or the concept ideas that word carries, but I break them down into syllables so that
yeah.
I can flow into my other lines. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense, but
No, it totally makes sense.
yeah.
Yes,
So
it
sometimes
does.
you just need to kind of break it down into different syllables. For me, like that, I mean, that's where I found my, I guess, Nepali writing. Man, say, okay, there are so many words. Like, how are you gonna like put it into, you know,
Yeah,
um, अब लिरिक्समा क्या जस्तै एउटा गीतमा अब त्यो बेला एकदमै मापसीहरू सुरु भएर थियो लाइक DUIsहरू जस्तो नेपालमा अनि I really wanted Mapasi to be in the song. Yeah, it's like how do I put this Mapasi in the song?
oh my god.
It's an
The
acronym
the
first of all, right?
the
So you just like fuck around with those kind of ideas and just experimenting and so maybe in that aspect, like, well, let's say I was like, okay, I want to put Mapase in the word or in the song, and then I worked around it. So I put it already in there, and I just kind
yeah,
of worked around
fine.
it.
Yeah, yeah, I totally get that. I do the same. I do the
Yeah.
same as well. I
So
think
that's
because like when I get into the process, it is usually free writing in the beginning. But I think like most of the time, I'm trying to ride the beat first, like
hmm
just go on like you kind of like come up I usually end up coming up with the flows before I even get into the free writing, or sometimes it happens like if it's so like if it gets me to think immediately of a sentence, then that's that. But then a lot of the times I end up writing the beat for a bit and doing a lot of gibberish talk like no that are like the flows there. And then if naturally you get the ideas from wherever that is, I think they call it the Greeks called it daemon, Daemon. I don't know if you might know it, but it's basically like this. So basically, the inspiration comes from somewhere, and
yeah.
so if that happens, it's cool. Like you spontaneously start writing it in your head, but then sometimes you have those keywords and then you lay them down, you know what you want to say, but you don't know how exactly you're going to say it, so the keywords are there, and then yes, and then you start molding it around
Yeah.
the beat. Yeah, this is
I
such a
think
cool
yeah.
process.
Yeah, I think I have a similar process. Usually I just kind of hum the tune in the first one and then I try to
Yeah, yeah,
transcribe it into the guitar.
yeah,
So basic, whatever the chords are, so nikalyo. And this is
yeah,
I start like, okay, I come up with the tune and then try and put the lyrics inside of that.
yeah,
And then again, those keywords, yeah, those I try and
yeah,
find those words that will help me like get into the next or the next line or something.
absolutely, absolutely. Do you have like do you immediately think of a theme, or does that is most of the time like do you just let the theme come to you, or are you actually proactively thinking of a theme? Because I know you're busy with certain things in your mind already, like you want to write about this and that. Does that happen before or after?
That can vary, I think, for me.
Yeah,
I don't really sit down and think like, okay, I'm gonna write a song, but sometimes,
about
you just
yeah.
like take a hit of joint or something.
Yes, exactly.
And then you pick up the
But
guitar and you're like, oh, what a kapuira and then
but
and I try not to miss those moments, because those are the moments that, and not like every time I smoke, I'm not saying every time I smoke I get that kind of inspiration, but there are times and it just like fucking comes out and I don't know from where or what, but sounds like cliche, right? At that moment is like so easy to like, okay, yeah, 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 yeah. And then sometimes
Uh-huh.
you take the same thing, and then the next day it becomes like total crap, right? Like you did something yesterday, it's like this is the shit, man. Okay, I'm gonna work on this. Like, what the hell is this, man?
But do you sometimes go back to it and be like, oh, it's not bad, and then it starts getting better? Because there are moments where you think you did a great. I think it's like the whole creative process. I think there's a meme for it as well. They show how the creative process works in the
Oh, really?
beginning, like you come up with an idea and it's like, oh shit, this is fantastic, like this is dope. And then like you see the next day and it's like, oh my god, this is crap. And then afterwards you take a break from it, come back, it's like, it's not that bad. And then like you work on it again, it's like, oh wait, it's getting better. And then like in the end you have like this finished product. So
Yeah,
I think it's a whole process. But like the
pretty
reason
much.
why I asked was because um I remember working on this album of somebody else. I was on 10 songs on that album eventually. And it was just this producer in a different city here. And that was the first time I literally sat down and wrote according to what he wanted me to write. So he would tell me like, this is what the song would be about, or I would want the song to be about this. So it was really like a nice challenge for me. And I was always going to the same spot, like in his house, in his studio. There was like this swing, and I'd always go there. I never wrote outside of that place. I always sat there and then wrote everything I could for that beat with the theme. And it was cool. It was like almost like an assignment, but I thought it was, yeah, it was fun. But most of the time, yeah, when inspiration strikes, then that's that, because you never know where your emotions take you. I
Yeah,
feel like most of the time, if I'm angry, I make a lot of good music.
yeah,
If you know, or if you're
yeah.
super sad. But there's like this thing I remember. I don't know who said this, but was it like a psychologist or an advertising group? Somebody talked about how the moment where you can come up with like the best ideas is when you're super relaxed. So he did this experiment where you are holding something in your hand. I think it was a ball. And then like you just relax yourself and try and fall asleep. Right. And so the moment you're about to fall asleep, the ball or whatever it is drops from your hand and it wakes you up. And it's like that little moment where you're super relaxed about to fall asleep. That's when it's best to come up with ideas, apparently. Like that is the state that a human being can be in, where they get inspired, and because you're not thinking so much, you're letting the thoughts come to you. And I thought that was pretty interesting, and I think it's true.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Songwriting. So is songwriting really challenging to you? You like the process, you hate the process, but you like the outcome. What is it for you?
I love the process. I've also, like, of course there are moments where you're totally frustrated, but I know how I work now. If most of the time, if something like the beats, I get the beats, and then if it's super inspiring, I could write in like 10 minutes and then start recording just
Nice.
to put it in while I'm hot. And then there are songs that I would not revisit 5 6 months until 5 6 months later, and then I'm okay to work on it. So it depends.
You,
But I
you, mhm.
I enjoy it. I
Okay.
know I know myself now, I think, enough to know what works and what doesn't work, and
Yeah.
what I can tell people if they're waiting for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, to
And
finish the song.
that in itself is a battle, like trying to understand who you are, right? Or how you work, or what is the most efficient
Your
time,
workflow.
or yeah, just to. So yeah, it's interesting, and I think that's ever changing as well, no? Like
Yeah,
as you're
yeah.
gathering more experience, as you're growing older, and
Yes,
so when you
yes.
look back into like your past works and stuff, do you find some of them being like not up to par, or do you feel like if I want to change it or something, or I don't know.
I wouldn't even go visit those songs. No, yeah. So I know that whatever I wrote at the time is valid for its time, and I feel like even those nurseries rhyme sounding things, I felt I've learned to kind of honor that, like to be like, okay, that was a, you know, a very genuine effort and trying to do something. And yes, I can be very critical, but I have this habit of like, as soon as I finish a song and I've listened to it enough to enjoy it, and you know, in different places, like I have to move on. And then suddenly, like, I don't listen to that song for a couple of years, and I
Mm.
come back to it and then I enjoy it again. So I don't, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily, I don't think I'd change any song that I've put out so far. Um, but yeah, it's
Yeah, I totally agree with you because it's more like it's a it's like that frozen moment in time,
yeah,
and
yeah,
and we are continuously growing and learning, and that was you at that point in time
exactly.
expressing yourself. So there's, I don't think you need to like, or anybody for that matter needs to be critical about it, but
Or ashamed. No, I'm
but
kidding.
but a lot of people, they're like, ah, yeah, yeah, that was like a long time ago. But then
Yeah,
if that's the
yeah,
case, then 5 years down the line, today is gonna be the same case, right?
yeah, yeah,
So you
yeah,
have to
exactly.
kind of like, that's me and that's who I was, and because of that, I'm here, or you know made me write something else, or whatever,
Absolutely.
grow up, right? So
There,
interesting. Yeah.
there's an MC who told me like, music is the only place where you can be in the present, the past, and the future. And I was like, wow, that's profound.
Yeah.
And it is, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
totally.
yeah,
And
I
sometimes like
think
I do find myself like, I don't know if it's true for you, but like when you go back and when you break out of that mentality of like, oh, that was very substandard writing or music, but then
yeah,
really focus on the emotion, because songs
yeah,
are, like, that kind of gives out some form of emotion, right? People, that's what people are
yes,
actually connecting with. So I mean, you're
yeah,
in a different place now, 5 years down the line, a year down the line, 10 years down the line, and then when you look back, for me, like, some of my songs have changed with time, because
yeah. That happens.
you
I
know
know. I know.
it's
Yeah.
very dynamic. And I think also the fact that when you write very abstract and vague, then it's totally like, inter you can interpret it any way you want.
Yes. Yes.
And
It does have a different meaning every time you go back to it. I think that's how I've experienced it as well,
yeah.
because um, I realized that even if I wrote something now and it didn't make sense to me, it would like somehow make sense to me years later. And it's almost like you're writing a journal, you know, it's like you're looking back at your journal of what you went through at the time
Uh-huh.
that you didn't understand then, but then you kind of reflect on it because it's there. It's a bit, it's your time capsule. When you revisit it, you see things differently, or like it makes sense to you. And yeah, I feel like, yeah, the whole music making process, I feel like it's a way for me to make sense of my life.
Of who you are, because you can actually go
Yeah,
back and like really sometimes get like an insight on yourself.
yeah,
You go
yeah,
back and you're like,
that's,
oh shit, that's the kind of person I am, or like, okay, this makes sense. Like,
yeah,
that's
yes,
totally something I
exactly.
would do. That's in my nature, type squared.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's very interesting. I think you're the first person that I'm actually having a songwriting conversation
No way.
with. Because a lot of the times that I try to bring it up, no offense to anyone, but like, it's about the, just, I guess, the thought process when it doesn't really match with people, and then
Yeah,
you're trying to
yeah.
say something, you're like, so what is your songwriting, like, what's the process for it? And then you're just like,
Down and right in the
I
story.
respect that, but like, yeah, I was trying to,
There's more to it.
yeah, have
Yeah.
something, a deeper conversation or something. It's good to know, like, having other artists like really investing and really like, um, trying to like get to somewhere, like almost like
Yeah.
exploring and like being
Exploration.
vulnerable and writing bad stuff most of the time.
Yeah. Oh yes. You got it right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's
That.
that's that's really that's really cool. So I
Yeah.
think Have we been talking for an hour?
No. Oh my God. Wait, it's more than an hour, I think.
What time do we
Yeah,
start? How do I check what time we started?
I have no idea. Because I remember, I think, yeah, it was around 3:45 maybe we started. And then now it's 5 here. So that's been a that's
Maybe
been a
just a
nice.
little over an hour, yeah? Okay, cool. I think because 7:30 maybe we came online and then
Yeah.
all right, so I
Maybe
think
try.
I think we're at the end of the time or
Oh, I was enjoying this.
yeah, we can do this later
Damn,
for sure.
we can do this later too. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So
I
hopefully
hope this is what, I hope
huh?
this is what it was supposed to be about. But I think it pretty much like connects with the whole theme of Echoes in the Valley, to be honest.
Yeah, because like we are well, it doesn't really matter like we are Nepali at the end of the day, whatever that means, or you are of this land is how I think
Yes.
about it.
Yeah.
Maybe when I think about like I mean obviously Nepali Nepal, but it's like something, because all your ancestors were here and like there needs to be something, right, that pulls me back.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not just like a random oops and then um
Yeah, absolutely. Like I've even got this new song called Ancients, and it's literally about ancestors and kind of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
giving homage to your where you come from, and like way down the line as well, and learning. It's like because I'm in the space where I'm trying to explore the history of my family and also the history of the tribes, and how they live their lives. I feel like I'm trying to draw some wisdom from there to live my life today.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, definitely, it draws you back, and I think it's for a reason.
Yeah. And it's not just in our rituals and the way we do things, but I think it's more about like the idea,
Yeah, yeah,
behind it, like because when people think about culture, they're probably thinking about like, oh yeah, Dosai Tiar and this and that or what, those
food.
kind of things, right?
Yes, yes,
But it's so much more than that. There's so many like underlying layers that make you Nepali or what identifies as Nepali, and it's not just like that the food or something like that. It's definitely part of the culture.
but there's much more
So
to it.
so definitely so I think that really should make sense in this context, right? Because we are of
It,
Nepali origin, living in different places, and uh, it's a different experience, like a shared, almost like a shared experience. I don't know. It's like
it's a shared experience. Yeah,
yeah,
it is.
it's
We're
what being Nepali is like. Living in Australia. That's also being. I mean, I don't know. It's like maybe not being able to express it right now. But
yeah,
their
yeah,
experience, like people like working in the Middle East. That is also a Nepali experience now. And so is
yeah.
people living in the U.S. and all spectrum of life.
I
You-
feel like you really need to write a book because I want what you're like, because what you're saying is the things I think about, and I feel like I cannot articulate it well, and I feel like somebody like you would be able to put that down.
yeah, that should be my next venture.
Exactly, exactly. We're exploring all possibilities of creativity, so
Yeah. So it's totally makes sense and it's totally relevant to Echoes in the Valley.
to answer the question,
Yeah.
to
So
wrap
we
this
did a
up.
good job. That's justified.
Yeah,
We didn't go
we
off
did.
the track.
But it was so much fun. But I'd
Yeah.
love to link you up with the video of the diamond. I don't even know I'm saying it right, but there's a kind of like a talk, like a TED talk on
Mhm.
that. So
Okay.
it's so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, please do send me that link. I would love to, because right now, especially right now, like, all I do is more of a visual person. So all of my information is just like watching, like, watching the screen, YouTube, and like reading off of, different articles online.
Yeah.
So I think we are out of time. I hope they don't like. I don't know how long they're gonna show this for.
Maybe
Maybe.
like cut us off like in the middle of it. But it
We
was
can only
fun. Thank
post like 30 minutes of this.
I know.
Anyway.
Damn. It's a good conversation.
All right, it was really nice talking to you. Hey, I'm gonna stop recording now. Do you have any last
Okay.
words you want to say to the people in the YouTube land? And
Well, thanks for watching us. Thanks for like being with us on the journey of exploring our yeah, songwriting and creativity. And yeah, I just hope that we can have more conversations like this. And I'm really just happy to be a part of the festival in the first place. And it's such a beautiful initiative. And I think that's connecting all of us all over the world. And it's nice. It gives
oh,
me a chance to connect with people back home,
yeah,
home, home wherever that is, but Nepal and everywhere else. So yeah.
yeah, I think we're out of time. So I'd also like to thank everybody, like, who had the patience to like watch two people, blah 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 blah. And if you want to have more of these kind of conversations, maybe we should set up like a different something. I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah.
All
Love
right.
it.
So, you guys have a good day, night, evening, morning, wherever you are. And hopefully, we'll see you guys soon. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.